All right, everybody. Well, here we are, the final episode of the Move podcast, brought to you by Patron Tequila. For those of y'all watching, no, we are not in JB's Airstream anymore. My longtime co-host, JB Hager. We are in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the home of Jason and Kristen and Collis Bosleman. Did I say that right? Bosleman. They won our contest to have us make the trek down here to the ABQ, the home of Walter White, the home to more personal injury lawyers than anywhere I've ever seen in the world. But we drove by, in all seriousness, we had to drive by Walter White's house last night.
It's like the most cliche thing to do in Albuquerque,
I
guess. But
and for those of y'all who don't know what we're talking about the show Breaking Bad. Walter White, Bryan Cranston played Walter White, was the main character, and his home has become this, or the home they use for the show has become this tourist attraction. And as I went, and this is the craziest thing, as I went online and just looked at photos, there, in every photo on Google, there was this couple sitting out in front of the house. Or they were sitting in the garage, or they were just in all the photos. And I was like, that's weird. Well, sure enough, we pull up last night and there they are.
It's just sitting out front.
I felt like a total creep. I wanted to, now it's fenced and there's a sign that says, take your picture from across the street.
That's what you get for
I had visions of Instagram glory.
Yeah, that's what you get for leasing your house to TV production.
Oh, it becomes
famous.
Such a massive hit.
But it seems like, so we felt uncomfortable, like we were creeping on him, and so we left. We didn't even take a picture.
No.
It's like, you think they capitalize on that.
Yeah, they were done. You can't take it if they're in the picture.
If they had if they had the sign, instead of saying, take your pictures across the street, it said, please be considerate. You're free to take pictures. Here's an honor system donation box. They'd probably make a fortune.
Yep. Yeah.
So that was a letdown.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see Walter's house. Well, we drove by it.
Yeah. Well, here we are, and we're psyched that you guys had us down and let us bombard your house and invited your friends, and it's great to be here. So,
and we'll get to Jason and his family in a little bit on the show, if that's all right. And another guest we're going to get to on the show, we met in Santa Fe when we kicked off this show, our little friend Tori.
Little force of nature. FON. But before we get to the final stage today, into Paris, which was, I think, for Alexander Kristoff and his team, was a culmination of a frustrating 3 weeks from the sprint side of things. Before we get to that, and before we get to Garrett Thomas's really unbelievable, and in a lot of ways unpredictable overall victory, and then just my sort of final takeaways about this tour and where that takes us into the next year or two. A little bit of business, as we say every day. This show is brought to you by High Brew Coffee, our friends from Austin, Texas. Cold brew for those who do. 6 different flavors, all natural energy, 2 cups of coffee per, much less acidity. Got a note last night from David Smith, the founder, because we've gotten a lot of questions, and I think they have too, is like, hey, if we're a bike shop or a coffee shop or a small corner grocery store in our community, how can we sell High Brew? Well, if you go to highbrewcoffee.com, you can scroll down and there's a whole tab there on become a dealer or how to sell High Brew. So just sign up and carry this great product. We really, really appreciate their support. It has enabled us to do things like we're doing today, to ramp up production, to travel to Albuquerque. So without their support and support like folks like PowerDot and Helix and On It and Patron Tequila and so many others, we just wouldn't have been able to do it. So, and also, last thing, if you want to go buy it for yourself, you can go to Amazon, and the buy code there is 20TheMove, all caps.
Very good. All right, we have a lot of stuff to talk about that sort of reflects on the last 3 weeks, but let's just reflect on today first.
Yeah.
We almost saw the impossible on the Champs-Élysées.
I was convinced. I bet Jason, the homeowner here, the Yves Lampert, this Belgian champion from Quick-Step, this circuit is a little tricky. I mean, there's a lot that obviously the bricks of the Champs-Élysées, the tunnel down at the other side. He snuck away. Yves Lampert, the Belgian champ, snuck away with another rider, and he looked back and just hit the gas with a kilometer to go. And from the helicopter angle, he looked alone, like he was going twice as fast.
He was going to hold it
as the sprint train. And I was like, this is. And Jason sitting here bet me $1, and I said, let's make it 100. And then as he kept going away more and more, I said, let's make it 1,000. He's like, no, $1. And then sure enough, the Peloton just blows by. I was like, oh, thank God it was just $1. But that was, if he could have pulled that off, that would have been amazing.
I mean, that just shows how hard it is to sustain that speed after 3 weeks in your legs. And can you imagine what was going through his head? I'm going to do this. I've got it. I got away.
And then all of a sudden he thought that, but
when that lactic acid kicks in, he
basically put it in park, and they came by him. The other thing it highlights is just how fast these sprint trains, once they really get going, they are going so fast. I mean, it's that last 500 meters is the speeds are incredibly high. One guy just cannot stay away, especially one that had been out there.
It would have been exciting, though.
It would have been amazing. Wouldn't have been the first time that's happened, but it would have been cool to see.
One thing we noticed is different from the days when you did Champs-Élysées is that they go around the arc.
Right.
It used to go down, and it was like a hairpin.
Right.
And it would just turn. Yeah, and it would line everything out, because you kind of come out of it single file, hitting the gas every time. So it stayed in kind of a bunched up order, more like a traditional sprint.
It's interesting, because from the TV's perspective, first of all, it's a lot easier when they go all the way around the Arc de Triomphe. From the television's perspective, it's a much more beautiful shot. I think from a still photographer's perspective, that hard U-turn, because they all sit right there, and so you always had that iconic shot of the yellow jersey framed in the center of the photo, and then the Arc de Triomphe behind it. Obviously now you can't capture that photo, but from the heli shot, it looks really, really amazing. And big shout out to Alexander Kristoff for spending 3 weeks being frustrated, missing out on the sprints, just not having it. And a team that was probably frustrated, although they did have a stage win with Dan Martin. For him to hang in there, and again, he's not here today because he's big time. But George Hincap, he called it yesterday. I'm sick and tired of this. I'm sick of it. Alexander Kristoff is my Patron of the day, and just for the record, I texted George 5 minutes ago. I knew what he was going to say. I said, "Who's your Patron of the day?" And he thought for Kristoff to hang in there, keep fighting, and then to keep his head up, stay positive, and win today. Clearly, he's our Patron of the day.
I know you won't want to spend much time talking about the polka dot jersey because it's not your favorite. Mm-hmm. But Alaphilippe held on to that. Obviously, that's not your favorite.
No, it's not my favorite. But he's I like him. I like his style. He's a big character.
And I'll clarify on why I say you don't like that jersey, because in your opinion, it doesn't go to the best climber of the tour. It goes to that opportunist who takes points.
Right, the most aggressive, the most consistent, the guy who wants to risk going in these early moves in the mountains. But having said that, if Garrett Thomas, I think, was the strongest overall climber in the tour, how could you argue that? He got fourth in the mountains competition. Nobody stood out. It's not like we had an uphill time trial where you could say, okay, clearly he's the best, or there was a day where somebody won by a minute alone where you could say they were the best. Nobody proved that they were the best climber. So I might actually come off a little bit of my just weirdness about that jersey and
well, it's really weird when the first couple days on the sprint stages where they give it to somebody.
Yeah, with the the overpass. Yeah, that's.
All right, Garrett Thomas's world just is completely changed.
Yes,
I mean he's not a new face. He's been around. But now
I did those years, 2009. We did the tour with him. He was in those tours. He's just his career trajectory has been pretty classic in the sense that he was a track rider and he was bigger and heavier, and he's just gotten more and more experienced, obviously, but he's gotten lighter and leaner and much, much stronger, and culminates with what we saw the last 3 weeks. Nobody can argue that he was not the best rider in the race. He was. And I don't know. I've never been to Wales, I don't think. But we got a little grief about calling him British and this, that, and the other. But to get up there, and you don't even see the yellow jersey. He's wrapped in the Welsh flag. I don't know when he's going back to Wales, but as soon as he can, I'd just start robbing banks. Because nobody's, seriously, just walk in and say, give me all your money.
Yeah,
and I don't know who's a big deal in Wales or not, but it was neat to see. I grew up as a Texan, and I was always very proud of being a Texan, and that played into a lot of the story. But boy, for them, this Welsh thing is a big deal. And without getting into any more trouble or offending anybody else,
wait, that's what we're about to do. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, good. Well, at least that's our last day, so y'all can
try to find us.
Y'all can come kiss my ass. I'll see you in 49 weeks. Sorry, Tori. I'm sorry. That don't say the words like that. No, but I went on my first run. I'm getting off the subject a little bit. My first run in a couple months this morning, because I didn't bring a bike down here, and I had the NBC coverage on my phone, and I was listening, and so I heard this fact. I mean, we've seen this run of, forgive us, British winners, right? From Bradley Wiggins to Chris Froome to now Garrett Thomas. Garrett Thomas is the only one that was born in Great Britain, right? Little known fact, Bradley Wiggins was born in Belgium. His father was a great bike racer, and Chris Froome was born in Kenya.
So he'll probably be knighted at some point.
Well, Johan pointed out the other day that the reason Bradley Wiggins and Dave Brailsford were knighted was because of their success, not just in the Tour de France, but also in the Olympics. And obviously Garrett Thomas has that too. So I would expect that, that he becomes Sir Garrett Thomas.
All right.
What is that? Are you cool with that if you're Welsh?
I would think so.
Okay.
I don't.
Does Wales have a king? Because it does now. His name's Garrett King.
Right.
King Thomas.
Right. Look for the dragon flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not done talking about him. Later on, I want to talk about his future and what that means for not just him, but also for that team and the rivalry of this race.
And that's where I wanted to go with this. Like, shed some light on it for what it's like for Garrett Thomas when he wakes up tomorrow. How is his life going to change financially, personally, sponsors, opportunity? I know it's a lot to tackle, but
yeah, I think he has tremendous potential to monetize this result, whether that's endorsements in his home country, or obviously in the week or 2 weeks just after the tour. It's very common that the winners, all the jerseys actually, and all of the sort of stars of the tour go off and do what they call criteriums, or essentially exhibitions where they ride around and late at night.
They get paid well just to show up.
They get paid very well to show up.
It's a fancy parade.
Inside baseball, it's when Chris Froome beats Christoph in the sprint tomorrow. That's not supposed to happen, but it just it's better for the show. Okay,
right.
But they'll do a little bit of that. I would imagine, and again, not to keep going on with this Welsh thing, but he's going to have a fairly significant, I would think, ticker tape-esque type of parade in his hometown and in his home country, and he deserves it. He's a very likable guy. When I raced with him, he was always very respectful, very polite, really cool kid. Not cocky. He was like me. He was normal. But he'll do well, because I think he appeals across a lot of places. And so now the question then becomes what happens to him in 2019, and he has, as we know now, he has not signed his contract. I got another little bit of grief on WhatsApp from Andrew McQuaid, who I said yesterday was the son of the former head of the UCI, Pat McQuaid. He wrote actually to Johan and said, make sure Lance knows that I'm Andrew McQuaid and my dad is Pat McQuaid, or something like, he's like, he says the times have changed. So Andrew, I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
And any scoop you want to give us on where Garrett Thomas is going in the next 20 minutes, that would be great.
Sometimes you'll hear it in golf, like they'll say winning the U.S. Open is worth $20 million to a player over time with deals. Is there a ballpark for a cyclist to win the Tour de France?
Cyclists typically make all their money with their team contract. There's very rare that they make more outside of the team. Right, the team. If Chris Froome makes £5 million, I don't see him making much more outside of that and outside endorsements, but the bulk of his pay will come from his team, and then becomes the question, what team can afford that? We've talked all summer long or all tour long about their $40 million plus budget. Nobody else has that kind of money to support two big riders like that, and it's a shame. Like it would be amazing to watch them as friends and as former teammates to be on separate teams with, an equal playing field and see what happens. But my prediction is we are not going to see that.
Let me throw this out there, kind of the good, the bad, the ugly of being thrust into this type of fame. Mm-hmm. It can't all be good. What else can Garrett Thomas...
What are you talking about?
What else can Garrett Thomas expect? With this sort of role.
I think he's a pretty humble guy, is my sense. I don't know. I think
he can handle it well.
He's a guy. Interesting, George told me this yesterday, and I did not know this. Garrett Thomas spent the entire last winter in Malibu, California training. Nobody even knew that. Garrett Thomas, the guy who's going to win the Tour de France, is just rolling around, Stunt and Calabasas and all these amazing canyons doing these climbs down the PCH.
But now he can't do that anonymously anymore.
He can.
You think?
Yeah. Not anonymously, but I think he can go back and it's going to change a bit, but I still think he can afford to do that.
Now, a lot of people know but they don't talk about it much on the show. There is prize money when you win the Tour de France, but there's also a tradition of how that gets
and they
divvied.
shouldn't. That's right, and they shouldn't talk about it because it's roughly $500,000 to win the Tour. That hasn't changed. When I won my first Tour in 1999, it was $500,000. It hasn't changed. So as much as I rant about ASO and how they hog all of this worldwide TV revenue, the riders don't. The riders and teams, team owners, et cetera, don't share in that. They also haven't been. The prize purse hasn't increased in 20 plus years. How stupid is that?
But there's also a tradition of how that gets taken care of.
I know, but I just want to talk about how stupid that is for a second.
All right.
No, but it's historically, and I know that through our years, the winner, so this year Garrett Thomas, will not take any of that money. He'll give all of that money, and I bet you Chris Froome doesn't take a split either. So essentially, you take the $500,000, you're going to split that up. They'll split it up with 6 other riders, and then the 30 or 40 staff also get a share of that. So the Garrett Thomas and Chris Froome are going to make their money other ways, and then these other.
It's a nice bonus for the rest of the team.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's hard to think of why they don't raise the prize money, but if they don't raise the prize money, everyone still shows up. It's not like they need more money to entice riders to show.
No,
but it's just not right.
No,
that's what you're saying.
Well, no, it's not.
What is the party like tonight?
These guys, there will be 2 parties. There will be the essentially what is a team dinner, like a banquet. So for the riders and staff, all of the sponsors are welcome. And again, I'm just speaking from our experience, but I think this is pretty much how it goes. That'll take them to. They won't get to that party because right now they're doing laps around the Champs-Elysees,
waving flags.
Every team, in 5-minute increments or 3-minute increments
and
goes
singing
off.
that song that you love to sing so much.
Oh, Champs-Elysees. Ugh.
That's an earworm. You're going to hear that. Yeah. Just that part.
I have a funny story about
the
Champs-Elysees in just a second. But so they'll do that, and then by the time they get back to their hotel, change, et cetera, they won't get there till late. And then if they have the energy, then they'll go. They'll keep going. I was never one to keep going. I was always one to be like, I'll see y'all later. I'm gonna go.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You just kind of ghost the party.
Yeah, get me out of here. A funny story about the Champs-Elysees. I was there 3 or 4 years ago, and of course this is post total meltdown, and I was there for a few things, and I landed at Charles de Gaulle, and I get in my Uber, and it's driven by this dude who's originally from I think Senegal. And we get off the Périphérique, which is the highway around Paris, and we turn and we're headed towards right into the center of Paris, and we come around the Arc de Triomphe, and then right when we hit the Champs-Elysees, he says, "Hello, this is the Champs-Elysees." And I go, "I know."
Seen it a few times.
He had no idea. It was just like, he was so happy and proud to tell me. And I was like, yep.
On that note, I've heard rumblings that you might be going back there before the summer's over.
That's not true. Is it? No.
Maybe not the Champs-Elysees, but France?
No. We're going to Nantucket.
Oh, it changed. It was France
it's
at one point.
that way. It was going to be France. It was going to be France, and we love
France,
going there,
Nantucket. Yeah.
We just want to. I got to tell you, this has been. It's not like riding the tour, but this has been a lot of work. It's been a blast, but it's a lot of work, a lot of pressure. So we're just going to take the family and just go lay on the beach for a week or so.
Are you going to take George with you?
No, no.
You going through George withdrawal?
No, George probably has a lot of commitments lined up between now and then.
All right, let's reflect for a moment on the tour as a whole, because we go into it some time ago with the preview, looking at the course, some things they do to shake it up, short stages, cobbles, the incredible grid start. What are your reflections on the tour as a whole and how they're tweaking that as we go?
Well, I think we have to do something. And actually, Jason asked me as we were watching, Jason, our host here, was asked as we were watching, what is this event going to look like in 25 years? And it's a great question. I don't have the answer, but I know that it has to look and feel and be different. I think they'll continue to try and change and evolve like that. I have a sort of 5 takeaways from this tour, which I'm gonna try to put these in order. My main takeaway, and it's not going to be any surprise to anybody that spent time watching it, is just the unbelievable dominance of Team Sky and Garrett Thomas. I mean, they were so far better than anybody else that that is the main headline. My second big takeaway, and I'm very, very adamant about this and proud of this man, Lawson Craddock, unbelievable job. I mean, you can't break a scapula on stage 1. 200 guys quit the race that day. They just don't continue on. For him to show the grit and determination, and then to double down with a nonprofit effort to try to raise money for a velodrome in Houston that made him who he is, was just shows his character. And for him to finish, I didn't see him getting over the cobbles, or even through the team time trial.
Right.
But that to me is the if we can't recognize just how unbelievably superhuman that was, then we didn't watch. So that's my second biggest takeaway.
Who'd have thought a broken scapula would be the best thing that could happen to that guy? I know that sounds weird, but in a way it is.
Yeah.
He's a household name in cycling now.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
And he deserves it. My third takeaway is Tom Dumoulin is going to win the Tour de France at some point. I don't know if it's next year, but he will win. He's just he's the youngest of all these people we just watched play in the sandbox.
We watched it in the Giro too.
He can time. He's very complete. He's smart. He regulates his effort. He doesn't get out over his ski tips. He will win the Tour de France.
But he needs the team strength
He's got to find some. But they will. I mean, he needs somebody with him. When you see that they're down to 10 and he's alone, he needs to have at least one guy with him. But that's easy to fix. Very easy to fix.
Because every time he was aggressive, the sky train just reels it right back.
Yeah.
That has to be so disheartening.
Yeah, but even a team like Lotto Jumbo, a team that nobody expected to have 2 guys in the final 6 there, Kreisuk would be a great guy to poach away and bring to Team Sunweb. Okay, my fourth is and I was so excited for this stage, and it just really, in a lot of ways, in the overall picture, just didn't play out. The cobblestones were remarkably uneventful. I thought that would completely disrupt this race, and in many ways dictate the race, and it just didn't. But like most things this Tour de France, I was wrong. And then the fifth is just the devastation in the sprint field with guys either crashing or getting eliminated or just dropping out. It was I've never seen so many top-level sprinters leave the race.
Well, if they're going to make it punchier, quicker, more aggressive to shake it up, do you think they should tweak the cutoff rules?
No.
Okay. Just sad to see the sprinters go.
I didn't say it was sad. I just thought I said it was shocking. But I guess it is sad in some ways. I mean, today it would have
been a hell of a show today.
Yep. Yeah.
But the guys that endure get the payoff, like Christoph.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's his reward.
That's right.
Okay.
And there's something to be said for that.
What about reflections on the podcast and the members participating and the input and all this?
Look,
it's been a hell of a month.
Well, special shout out. I make fun of George every day, but special shout out not just to George but to you, JB, for a little bit of backstory and history. This podcast was originally supposed to be Lance and George. I don't know if you know that or not.
I did know that.
You did know that.
You told me
and George,
that right away.
we couldn't figure it out last year, and I thought, oh my God, I can't do it by myself. I said, where's JB? So JB will help me carry this thing along and make it flow, because that's what you did so great for so many years. So thanks to you for doing this. Two guys that are sitting over here that nobody ever sees, Dave Bolch and Eddie Rogers, who all this camera work and all of these different switching and going from one to the other and ads, but it looks professional.
Mm-hmm.
Big shout out to them. And so that's just been that's been the big difference between 2017 and 2018 is increased production. And just super proud of the way we pulled it off, all the way down to trying to figure out how we could get higher speed internet access in Aspen, Colorado, in the middle of fires down valley, cutting off electricity and cutting off data, and trying to get this show out to people as quickly as we could. But
it's gone pretty well.
Yeah, very well. And I'm just honored and humbled that if you look on the iTunes charts, or if you look at the downloads, or if you look at the reaction from the inbox from fans and listeners and viewers, it's mind blowing.
Very, very cool. Now, we should meet our hosts.
We should.
Here today.
Yes.
Jason, do you want to grab the seat over here?
Before we get to Jason, I'll do my last bit of business for quite some time.
And we'll get to you, Tori.
Yeah,
Don't panic.
Tori, you're coming up. What if we put the power dot on Tori? Is there an age limit? Are 10-year-olds allowed to get eSTEM? We'll let mom control the intensity. You start acting up, just ramp it up to like 40. You get a B, take her up to 45. I talk about PowerDot every day. I love this company, the most mobile, portable eSTEM unit in the world, powered by an app on your phone, Bluetooth enabled. I love the company so much that I invested in it personally. Again, don't know if that's an endorsement or a disclaimer, but it's the truth. Giving away, I guess they're giving away one more. Today's the last day to give one away. Go to powerdot.com/themove. Or if you want to buy one, go to the same URL, and 25% off to our viewers and listeners.
Very good.
All right.
Now our host,
Jason, thanks for having us.
foolishly sent in an email inviting us to Albuquerque.
Seemed like a good idea, but welcome to Albuquerque. There you go.
Yeah.
Glad you guys could make it.
Do you always have such well-garnished cocktails on Sunday morning?
Tori did this for me on her own. There's raspberries and blueberries in there. I didn't even know we had those. So she's hired.
And I knew you had ran Leadville, and actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but Jason did Lead Man, which is the ride, the run. There's like 5 or 6 components to it. He did all of those, which is strange.
And the distance on those, for those who don't know, is...
it starts at the marathon that Lance did, goes to a 50-mile run, 50-mile bike, then the 100-mile run, 100-mile bike, 100-mile run, 10K in there somewhere.
Then the 10K is the day after the 100-mile ride.
Oh, my
The next
gosh.
morning, like 8 a.m.
Right.
I mean, who went? No.
Right.
Which was the worst experience for you?
The run is the worst.
The 100-mile run.
Nothing compares to starting at 4 in the morning, watching the sunrise, running all day, watching the sunset, running all night, and watching the sunrise.
Ugh.
That is...
And for those who don't know, the altitude that you're hitting on this...
It's
not the same course as the ride, but the altitude starts at 10,000.
Starts at 10, goes up to 12,300 a couple times, something like that.
Oh, geez.
It's up there.
In the marathon, which as you just said, I did, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks ago with this lunatic, Eric Burns, turns around at Mosquito Pass, which is 13-1.
Right. You did awesome. Off the couch.
In this, I think you kind of epitomized the We Do crowd. What motivates you to do this crazy stuff?
Well, Leadville was this weird passion started by my mom. I was 10 years old. I broke my arm one day before summer vacation. And my mom went to the library and got me these magazines. That's when you could get magazines at the local library. And there was a picture in one of them of the backside of Hope Pass. And they had just started doing Leadville. And I just remember that picture and a quote from Ken, Kloiber, the race director. You're better than you think you are. You can do more than you think you can. And I ran downstairs and said, Mom, I'm going to do this someday. And she laughed. But it became this passion that someday I was going to do it. Turned out I was a real crappy runner. So it was it was a great passion with little ability to follow it up. But and then I made this commitment to do it. And right before she passed, I was 7 tries in, and she said, "You got to do it. You got to do it." And I said, "Mom, I promise I will." And And last year I did, and it worked out thanks to my wife, Kristen. Thank God. Texan. And
it's
another
one thing to be one thing to be a lunatic. It's another to be married to a lunatic.
Yeah, but there's a lot of your listeners that are on both sides of that deal. And she was the big difference maker. And then honestly, and I'm not affiliated with them, but CTS, Carmichael Training Systems, I hired them. Jason Cooper, another Texan that wrote this great book on ultra running, I hired him. John Fitzgerald, Adam St. Pierre, and Corinne Malcolm. They Sherpa'd me through that thing. And we got to the end of it, finally finished under 30 hours.
Under 30 hours.
All right, we have this joke that we do where, most of the time it's if somebody doesn't want to do something, we say, hey, it's called we do, not we don't. But everything you just laid out, I'm just going to say for you and everybody listening, it's not we don't.
Right.
I can't. I could never imagine doing that.
I know.
Sure you can. You rode 21 days in France.
I asked Jason, I was like, 29 hours? I mean, did you sleep? He's like, he was climbing.
I was going up power line at mile 80, and my pacer John was 100 yards ahead of me because I was bitching and moaning, and he didn't want to hear it anymore. And all of a sudden, I woke up, and there was dirt on my face, and I realized I'd fallen asleep running.
Oh, this is so messed up.
Yeah,
and
we don't.
And I shake it off, and I look around, and John hadn't seen me, and then I get up, get the dirt off, and then I catch up to John, and he hadn't seen it, so I never told him. Now this will be the first time John Fitzgerald hears that, but yeah.
So people are running by going, wait, that's my lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. They just step over you, keep going.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for being here. Welcome to Albuquerque. Glad you guys could make it. Happy to have you.
Yeah. No, it's been
you guys
great.
have been great.
And you got to try the Blake's green chili cheeseburger.
Oh,
that's right. And the burrito.
Very
good. Good stuff.
Thanks
It lived up to the hype.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Tori.
Now for our headliner.
So Tori, we kicked off the show a couple days before the tour started in Santa Fe. And this darling young lady comes up to the microphone to ask some questions about what Lance eats before he races. And you guys have stayed in touch. And then Creeper over here is like, hey, Tori, what are you doing on Sunday? Via email.
I know. And then she wrote, but I didn't read you her response to me yesterday. By the way, this came in at 9:46 p.m. Isn't that past your bedtime?
No, we were watching the tour past 11.
Oh, wow. There you go. She says, okay, this is last night. Hey, LA, so excited for tomorrow, quintuple exclamation point. We watched the Stage 18 video. Santa Fe is an hour away to ABQ. That's how the cool kids say it.
Well, I didn't know how to spell Albuquerque.
You know what? I didn't either.
I didn't either. Today.
I was like ALBE, ALBO. No.
The only thing I know how to spell is Albuquerque.
We would have understood. And then she says, how will it work? Do you want me to say anything or do you want to interview me? See you tomorrow. Tori, your best friend, or Tor. Mic drop.
So, Tori, were you a cycling fan at all prior to that show in Santa Fe, or your parents just drug you over there?
Nope.
You didn't know anything?
I didn't even want to go. Honestly, I was like, no, I'll do anything. I'll clean my room.
Oh, my God. This is really depressing.
Okay.
Don't say this.
Now, are you a cycling fan now?
Mm-hmm.
You are? You're a fan of the sport?
We converted her.
Sure.
Do you think you'll always watch it? The
Sure.
tour, especially the tour?
Sure.
Oh, you're so sarcastic. I can see it in your eyes.
Well, we may be back in Santa Fe next year for the kickoff show. You better be there for that.
I will.
Did you have a favorite rider as you were watching? Who?
Peter.
Peter Sagan?
Peter Sagan.
Why do you like him? The way he talks?
Make party.
That too.
When you get older, you make party too.
Because his back was like, his jersey was all torn up and his elbow was bleeding, gushing blood, and he just kept going. He didn't give up.
There you go. He didn't give up. And he got to keep that green jersey all the way into Paris.
It's his 6th green jersey. I mean, and he's not even I don't think it's a real stretch to think that Peter Sagan's going to hold the record for green jerseys when this is all said and done.
Now, do you have a bike?
Yes.
What kind of bike do you have?
I have this black one with red flames on it, and it has 7 gears.
Whoa. Now, are you taking more of an interest in riding that after
Yeah,
this?
we go down to the plaza, we go down to Aria, we get ice cream.
Awesome.
Yeah, remember one of the earlier emails? She invited us kids with their
that's
bikes
right.
and said they have a trampoline.
Yeah, and our hill, the Spruce Street, it's really steep, so we have to pedal up that, and my dad will always like, go, 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 and I'll say, be quiet, because I have a habit of talking. And the hill that we live on is like this, so I've learned to bike up that
Good.
Awesome.
the hard way.
All right. Did you have any more questions about the tour while you have Lance here?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you do after the tour? Do you have like rest days and then keep training? What do you do?
Well, so the big question, it's actually a good question for a lot of these riders. And for example, you see with Team Movistar, their three big leaders, Quintana, Valverde, and Landa, are all going to do the Tour of Spain. So Tori, in cycling, there's three-week races. There's the Tour of Italy, the Tour de France, and then the Tour de Spain, all separated by about a month. Huh? You didn't know that,
No.
right? Well, the Tour is the big one. The Tour of Italy is second biggest, and the Tour of Spain is third. So a lot of these guys will go do the Tour of Spain. So they can't totally make party. They have to behave a little bit. But they'll spend about a week of enjoying themselves, and then they got to get back into the groove. I mean, I was always of the position or the place that once you won the Tour, you just didn't need to do anything else. So I sort of wound down my season, and I would go back to the U.S. and go on Dave Letterman or Jay Leno, or those guys are retired now. I don't know now it's
Know
Jimmy
who you're
Kimmel.
talking about?
Do you even know? Yeah. And so, and that one, sponsor obligations, et cetera. But you can go either way. Or you can almost take a hybrid approach where you do some of the one-day races or prepare for the biggest one-day race of them all, which is the World Championships, which is why Peter Sagan wears the rainbow jersey, because he's the world champion.
Awesome.
So they have choices.
Any other questions?
Why did you choose riding as your sport?
I was my first sport I ever did, and was obviously I did a lot of sports as a kid, but the first sport I really committed to was swimming. So I was on the swim team. I swam an absurd amount of yardage when I was 12, 13, 14, 15. And then I started doing triathlons, because I also, while I swam, I ran track and cross country in high school. And so the last thing that I needed to do triathlons was a bike. So I got a bike, did a triathlon, and then once I got the bike, I was like, oh my God, this is the best part. And so it's something. In 1989, I transitioned from triathlons just to cycling. And it was kind of fun just to get away from your parents, just.
Do you do any sports, Tori?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I do volleyball and gymnastics and golf.
Oh, wow.
Golf. Now we're talking.
Now,
Yes.
Lance will want to talk to you all day if you want to talk golf.
Yes, I will.
And you broke your wrist since we saw you, or sprained it or something.
Sprained it.
What'd you do?
I had a field day at camp, and we had doing a relay race, and we're supposed to high five the person before they go. So I high-fived
That's called a tag.
because he had already started running, so we just went. Oh, here, it just popped.
Oh, man. Well, you got to get that healthy if you're going to.
Probably by tomorrow it'll be off.
Okay, good. All right. Well, cool. Good to see you, Tori.
Tori, thanks for being here.
You're
In the
welcome.
ABQ.
ABQ.
Hey, and to all our... we're
One last thing. Collis had a question that I thought was really
That's
good.
right, he did.
Where'd you go, bud? Sneak over
Collis,
to that microphone for a
slide up
second.
here.
This is Jason's son, who apparently never does any chores except for when Lance Armstrong's coming over. That's the word on the street.
So my question was,
Closer to the mic. Yeah.
so when you were in the tour, were there anything that was superficial or something like that?
Superstitious.
For you?
So, I'm not a big superstitious person, but if I had to, I don't know if this is superstition or just habit, but most of those tours I rode with one jersey. So the first yellow jersey that I would ever get, I would wash it every day. And just like an old T-shirt that's been washed a bunch, it becomes your favorite T-shirt. This jersey would just get broken down and broken in and worn in. And so I never wanted to put on a new yellow jersey. So they would give me a new one every day, and that would just go in the bag. But I kept the same jersey unless there was a crash or it got messed up. But That's one thing. And then I think the only other, and even now to this day, if I'm out mountain biking and I have to dab and get off the bike, I'll never get back. I'll never get on the bike on the right side.
Really?
Yep. I always get, even if I've got to get off, walk around the bike on a single track.
Really?
Isn't that weird? And I catch myself doing it. I'm like, what's up with that? It's not like, no. I mean, it's just, I just do. It's just habit, and it's just more comfortable.
Now I'm going to look for that. If there's an old video of you in a race changing a tire, you would go around.
Well,
in a race, maybe
if you're in a hurry, you got to get on.
You do whatever you do.
But at the beginning of the day, if you're not in a hurry and you have a choice, you get on. I got on the left side. The only other thing is we had a lot of Spanish guys on the team that were very superstitious. So the whole world knows how superstitious people get about salt.
Yeah.
So you can't spill salt, and if you do, you have to throw a handful over your shoulder. These Spanish guys, and we have maintained this tradition. My kids will tell you, we've maintained this tradition for 20 years plus. They will never, if somebody says, hey, can you pass me the salt? JB might go, here's the salt. They would never pass the salt hand to hand. Salt always had to go on the table, and then you could pick it up. And
you should always pass it with the pepper, too. It's an etiquette thing. You always pass both.
Well, nobody on our team went to cotillion, so there's no big deal there. But we never passed the salt hand to hand.
Not hand to hand.
And since then, I've never done it.
Wow.
Did any of your teammates have any super weird superstitions that you're like, really?
I don't know. We had a lot of weird teammates. We had a lot of great teammates, but we had some weird ones.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Collis? I'm putting you on the spot.
Ask if he wants to pick.
Now you're having to live up to Tori, who could just go, yeah, I got more.
Did you ever have a favorite type of bike that you ever rode? So, I don't know, type of road bike or mountain bike?
All these bikes are different. Even if they come out of the molds the same, it's something about them, whether it's the geometry or just the seat, all the way down to the seat. Is just different. So you always find a bike that you like the most. And if we would ride, we'd have the main bike that we rode in most of the stages. Then we had the light climbing bike, and then you had the time trial bike. There's always an adjustment when you go between those. Even the road bike and the climbing bike, although they look exactly the same, they're just different. And so, but you always find one that's your favorite.
Yeah.
And highlight that one. Stick with that one.
Did you ever save a childhood bike? No. I know sometimes people have like that, or they go try to find the exact same bike. Like
somebody mocked up a Schwinn Mag Scrambler I had from one of the first bikes I ever bought from Richardson Bike Mart, from Richard Hoyt in Richardson, Texas. And it was like a brownish Mag Scrambler with yellow wheels. And so somebody, I think at some point, mocked it up.
Tried to replicate your old bike. Well, cool. This is going to wrap it up. We all go through tour withdrawal now. And thanks for all the members checking in with us every morning.
Great.
We had a couple of glitches here and there. Thanks for your patience.
Yep.
But overall, that was a lot of fun, taking real-time questions. The happy hours were fun.
Yep. And we'll be back. We won't have to wait 49 weeks, actually. But we're not sure where the move lands in your inbox next, but you won't wait 49 weeks. I mean, I really enjoyed our coverage of Ironman last October. I think we'll look to do that again, and we'll see. I mean, there's all these crazy, interesting adventures. I mean, as we've talked about on the show, George and I are going down to La Ruta down in Costa Rica, an extremely hard 3-day mountain bike event. I could see the move being covered from there. So,
and is the run in prison still potentially going to happen?
Yeah, I'm set to run inside the walls of San Quentin with the inmates in their marathon. I think last year they had about 21
Safer
runners.
than Leadville, by the way.
They have about 21 runners. It's 105 laps around the inside of the prison yard. You have to stay within 2 green lines. Can't get out. And then there's other rules. I mean, there's times where the prison goes on lockdown, so everybody has to stop, and you have to sit right where you stop and can't move. The entire population, which is about 3,000 outside of death row, will be in the yard.
That's so cool.
So I can imagine covering that. But that event, and just a quick shout out and a quick throwback to the forward is, that is all made possible by an incredible nonprofit called The Last Mile, which is takes these prisoners who have made tremendous mistakes in their lives, and as have all of us. Obviously, their mistakes are probably more severe, but they're on a path to redemption and recovery, and so they're learning to code. All of these prisoners outside of death row are going to get out of prison.
And there's tons of jobs right there in that area.
Well, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things outside the area. Is the point, right? The recidivism rate for somebody in prison who doesn't get any kind of training, whether it's woodworking, or cooking, or coding, the recidivism rate is tremendously high. That they go back to prison. With The Last Mile, over the last 7 or 8 years that they've been in existence, not one of those prisoners has gone back to prison. So,
amazing.
And not only that, they're getting out and getting, as my great friend Chris Schumacher, who's got a great coding job, making a great salary, but he will also freely admit and tell you exactly what he did to get there. And just ask your forgiveness and everybody's forgiveness. So I'll be there on with The Last Mile. And it'll be interesting. I don't know. I better start. That's why I went running today.
And you found out that you're wildly popular in prison, unbeknownst to you. Not since Johnny Cash has anyone been that well received at San Quentin.
Well, thank you, JB. Thank you. There's a lot of people that thought I'd end up there, but yeah. No, that'll be good. That's mid-November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That's a wrap. We're gonna get out of this nice family's hair.
Give them their Sunday back.
Try to put this house back together.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks for having us. Thanks for tuning in to all of our audience, not just the members, but everybody that tuned in and made the show so successful. We really appreciate it.